Hi everybody, it's Mr. Bowl here with the second lesson in our series about the ancient Egyptians. So you've worked out how to mummify a body, and thank you for sending me such brilliant work. And today we're going to look at the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb. Tutankhamun was one of the most famous of all the pharaohs of Egypt, and his body was discovered in the middle of the desert in an area where archaeologists thought that there was nothing left to find. But Howard Carter, who's been working there for over 6 years, and his boss, Lord Carnarvon, said, well, really, I'm running out of money. And Howard Carter persuaded him, can we carry on excavating and trying to find Tutankhamun's tomb for one more season? And in the 7th year of his excavations, he found this. He found these steps leading down to what must be a tomb. So he didn't go in, Howard Carter. He wrote a letter to Lord Carnarvon, who was in Britain, and he said, come over because I think I've found something important. And in those days, you had to come from Britain to Egypt by sea. So you couldn't come by airplane, so it took weeks for Lord Carnarvon to come, and Howard Carter didn't open the door or do anything. He waited for the boss to come. This was in the 1920s. Here's the tomb today, where you can go and visit. In Egypt, obviously, but now there's gates on the door, and obviously you have to pay to get in, and then you can see what's there at Tutankhamun's tomb. Now here's Howard Carter, the man who discovered it, the archaeologist, and this is the tomb that he found. Here's Carter here, and also they're starting to bring things out now that they're going to keep safe. And then, after a long time of bringing all the things out of the first room that they discovered, then they were able to open the second room. As you'll see on this diagram, it wasn't easy at first to work out how many things were there. So this is the first room they went into, the tomb, and they found all these things, and then they had to carefully carry them out and dust them off and make them safe and put them into museums. And only after they doing all that could they open this one, and this one, and this one. And all this took a very long time, years, for them to get everything out. So what did they find? So Howard Carter, accompanied by Lord Carnarvon and his wife Lady Evelyn, were the first people to see inside Tutankhamun's tomb since it had first been sealed up thousands of years before. I inserted the candle and peered in, Carter said. This is a quote from him. At first I could see nothing, but as my eyes grew accustomed to the light, details began to emerge. Strange animals, statues, and gold, everywhere the glint of gold. For a moment, an eternity it must have seemed to the others standing by, I was struck dumb with amazement. And when Lord Carnarvon inquired anxiously if I could see anything, it was all I could do to utter the words, yes, wonderful things. And now you're going to go on to the YouTube link, which is connected to this lesson on our school website, and click on that, and there's a 4-minute video all about Howard Carter and him opening up Tutankhamun's tomb. It looks like this, if you make sure you get the right one. So it's only 4 minutes, but it's really good, and you're going to watch that, and then, so you can pause this video, watch the other one, and then come back to the lesson. Right, so you've seen the video now, and you've got an idea, hopefully, of how exciting it must have been for those people to discover that tomb after all those thousands of years. Now we're going to see 11 of the different objects that were brought out of that tomb. And so when we're looking at the 11 objects, you're going to see 11 pictures. And the first time round, I'm not going to say too much about them, and I want you to write some notes about what you think. So you can guess, and if you get it wrong, it doesn't matter. But for each of the objects, you're going to write down on a piece of paper, what is it? And then I want you to give a score. If you think it's really important, give it 5. And if it's not very important, give it 1. Okay, but if it's in the middle, give it 2 or 3. It's up to you. So when you see each picture, after I finish this bit, pause the video, get a piece of paper and a pen, and then you're going to write down for each picture, what do you think it is? How important is it? So some of them you'll think, oh, it's obvious what it is. Some of them you won't be that sure, but you can have a guess. Okay. And like you did for the last lesson, you can use bullet points for this. And this doesn't need to be your bestest handwriting and the most neat piece of work, because this is just making notes. And you can do your good handwriting and your proper capital letters and everything later on when you do your piece of written work. Here's the first picture. So you're writing down what you think it is and then how important. And if I'm going too fast on this video, then you just pause each picture, do your notes, and then press play. That's object number 2. Number 3. 4. Number 5. It's in a museum now, so it's in behind a glass case. But this is what you're looking at, these things. What do you think they are? Here's the next one. And the next one. Okay, and this is the last one. So now, if you got a bit rushed on that, you can just pause, and then go back over your notes and maybe make a decision about your score of the level of importance. 5 is very important, and 1 not so important. So you do that, take your time, and then we're going to go back to this first one out of all the 11 objects. There we go, there's the first one. Right, this one. Now, you probably got this one, I reckon, because these are the different jars, the canopic jars, and Tutankhamun's organs are inside these jars, like we discussed in the last lesson. Now, I wonder if you got this one. So, you will have seen some counters, and this, you keep your spare counters in there. And it's actually a game, it's an Egyptian game called Senet. So if you think of a game like chess or drafts, this is what the ancient Egyptians used to play. You can tell from this the skills they had in working with wood, the craftsmanship and the artistic skills that they used. And this has obviously lasted thousands of years, so it must have been well built in the first place. Right, what about this one? So you might have recognized the head of a jackal. So this is the Jackal God Anubis. And if you remember last week, the priests, some of them were dressed up like Anubis with a special hat that they wore. And Anubis is the god of the afterlife. So unless you please him, when you weigh your heart and see if it weighs lighter than a feather, unless you can please him, you're not getting into the afterlife. So in this room, it's scattered all around a bit. It's not easy to see everything, but you can see this golden chariot. And this was there, presumably, so that Tutankhamun could continue to be taken around in a golden chariot when he was dead in the afterlife, like he was when he was alive. Now, this one, I wonder if you got this. This is a throwing stick, and you use it for hunting birds. So it's a little bit like you might see a boomerang that they use in Australia. So this was in his tomb so that Tutankhamun could carry on enjoying hunting when he's dead. What about this one? So this is the head of a leopard, and the Egyptians found leopards very fascinating. They admired them. They're very graceful, they're very strong, and they don't occur naturally in Egypt, so they would import them from further south in Africa where you can find them. And also, as you know, cats were very special to the Egyptians, and this is a very large and very powerful type of cat. So a leopard was very sacred to the Egyptians. Right, this one. Now you might have been able to work out it's an amulet, like the ones we saw last week, that could be put in with the mummified body to protect the person in the afterlife and bring them good luck. And this is a special one, and you'll like this. This is a scarab, a beetle, and the type of beetle this is a dung beetle. So the real beetles that live in Egypt, they live on poo. And what they do is they roll up the poo into a ball and take it off to where they're going to use it. I think that's enough details on that. But what they believed was that the scarab god, okay, who's called Khepera, his job is to roll the sun. Like a scarab beetle rolls the dung, the god rolls the sun across the sky every day. And so the Khepera is going to protect you, because the sun god is a supreme god in the Egyptian religion, the sun god Ra, and Khepera will protect you in the afterlife. Now, what do you think this one is? That's right, it's a dead body, and this is Tutankhamun's mummified body. So there he is after all these years. And this is his head mask, an amazing piece of artwork, a fantastic design, use of gold. And you notice here the very long thin beard, and they would attach this to any head mask that they would make of a pharaoh, even if the pharaoh was a woman. It was their idea of what the leader of the country should have, a long thin beard like that, and it was a sign of wisdom. So here's another set of wheels and equipment for a chariot, and presumably the chariot was standing when it was first put into the tomb and to be used all those years before. And these, if you look closely, these are modelled to be like animals. And here's another one. There's the tail. And then lots and lots of these special things. So no wonder Howard Carter was speechless when he opened the door. This is the part on the top of the coffin inside the sarcophagus, which represents the leader with the long thin beard. And this is how they made Tutankhamun look. Of course, it wouldn't necessarily be an exact picture of what he really looked like, because the idea is to make him look good. Right, so now we've seen all the objects, but now I'm going to give you a really difficult decision now. You're going to put on an exhibition in a very, very small museum, and there's only room for one. So out of the 11 objects, you have to choose one. So obviously you can use your scores for how important you thought they were to help you make your decision which one you're going to choose. So you can go back over the video and start it again and look at the 11 objects and make a final decision. But whichever one you choose, you have to be able to write down explaining why you've chosen it. Now I'm going to choose one, and I'm going to show you what I've written. So, very difficult decision, but after a lot of thinking, I decided I'm going to choose the head mask of Tutankhamun. And because I've chosen that one, you have to choose a different one. Here's my writing. So this is what a good one looks like. I've chosen the head mask of Tutankhamun to put into my museum. I've chosen this firstly because I think it tells us a lot about Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife. They thought that the coffin of a great pharaoh should be beautifully decorated, so that the pharaoh would still be able to live a royal lifestyle after they died. They had a picture on the front of the coffin which showed what a pharaoh should look like. They always made them look more handsome, especially if they were really ugly. And they usually had a long thin beard, like we saw here, because this was how they thought a leader should look, even if the pharaoh was a woman. Finally, I've chosen this because it is a beautifully decorated object, and it will make the visitors to the museum realise that the Egyptians had fantastic art techniques, even though they made it over 5,000 years ago. So that's the type of piece of writing that you can do. But remember, you've got to choose a different one. So you can't choose the head mask. You can use the way I've written it. So you can start, I have chosen. And then you can give 3 different reasons why you're choosing it. So obviously you want to choose something that you think is important. But I don't mind which one you choose, as long as you can explain it and be persuasive about why that's the one that you want in your museum. When you've written your piece of work, then you're going to photograph that and send it to me. Or if you want to type it up and get your parents to email it directly to me on my school email, then that's fine. Here's some of the words that you might want to be able to spell properly in your work. So the very end of this video, which you can return to later if you want to, is the word bank. And here's all the words, keywords. So if you spell these wrong, then I won't be all that impressed. You need to check this first. All right. So just a reminder, you're choosing one out of all of these objects. Okay. So choose one. That's the one I've chosen. And then you're going to write down why you've chosen it. Okay. And you need to explain it carefully. Brilliant. Once you've done that, send it to me. Last week's work that I received was absolutely fantastic. So if it's as good as that, I'll be really, really impressed. Okay, everybody, well done. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.